It is 1 o'clock. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The NBA draft finished up last night as two Vols were drafted in the second round. Chaz Lanier went to the Detroit Pistons and picked number 37, and Tennessee guard Jamai Mashack went with the 59th and final pick to the Memphis Grizzlies. Speaking of drafts, the NHL draft starts tonight, and the Nashville Preds hold the 5th overall pick in the first round. Find out who they select and more. The draft begins tonight at 6 p.m. For your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, is on the air. Happy to be back with the Hitman Blaine Bishop. I'm Lucas Panzica, filling in again for Zach Lyons. We have much to discuss. Jordan Dejani coming up later in this hour with some NFL headlines. The NBA draft wrapping up last night. The NHL draft starts tonight with the Preds having the number 5 overall pick. And I think Tennessee basketball fans might have a new NBA team to cheer for after last night.
Is that what you're hoping here?
I don't know.
Or not?
We can talk about it.
I think Jackson thinks not.
Unfortunately, this is a great day for Zach Lyons to actually be here to talk about the fit with Jamai Mashack staying in state.
I saw him quote on Twitter that he hopes this brings the Tennessee, rivalry to an end and bring everybody from the state together. I don't think that's going to happen. With Mashack, a good player, but he'll probably, if he's on the roster and he plays a little bit, and then eventually he'll be somewhere else.
Look,
that's what's gonna happen. Look at Jackson. I just don't think I don't think it's going to go away. It has to be a superstar player, like connect to have everybody connect.
There you go.
And I think Mashack, his role will be more of a defender guy. Who was the guy? I think his last name was Allen that was with the Grizzlies.
Tony Allen.
Yeah.
Tony Allen. Yeah, Tony Allen. I think that's more what Mashack will be in the NBA.
That feels like best case scenario, right?
Yes,
that'd be a pretty good turnout.
I don't know if a guy like that is going to transform the fan base. But you never know. Never know. Very, very likable and really happy for him because I thought it was going to be really close. So good for him to get that kind of opportunity to play in the NBA and see if he can, stick. And then once you're in, man, you're part of the group there at the NBA. Next thing you know, guarantees all over the place. Contracts.
Well, Chaz Lanier drafted 37th overall, 7th overall in the second round to the Detroit Pistons. So he's headed up north. He joins up with Tobias Harris, another former Tennessee player, and he'll surround Cade Cunningham and that young Detroit team. And then, like you mentioned, Jamai Mashack, I suppose the Mr. Irrelevant of the NBA draft. He tweeted about being Mr. Irrelevant, but I don't think the NBA does anything for the last pick in the draft the way that in the NFL you get rewarded for being Mr. Irrelevant, right? You get a free vacation, you get maybe some endorsement deals. It's a big deal to be Mr. Irrelevant in the NFL draft.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard them bring that up in the NBA. Hugh Jackson?
No, I don't think they do anything special.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. But, hey, maybe he can be the first one to kind of get that going.
We'll see if he can be that first Tennessee player to really find a foothold with Memphis. Because the Grizzlies have brought in some Tennessee players over the years. Like in the last decade alone, Jarnell Stokes had his moment. Back home, he's from Memphis, kind of had some moments there.
I was really hoping that would happen.
Yeah, just kind of sputtered. He ends up going to China and bouncing around. And then you had Kennedy Chandler, another Memphis native, going back home for the Grizz 1 year, and he's bouncing around the G League. And then another defensive specialist from Tennessee, Yves Pons, was drafted to Memphis.
Oh, I forgot about it.
He's playing in Europe. So they're going to try it again with Jamai Mashack. Jeremy Woo, NBA draft expert on ESPN, kind of broke it down. He says, Mashack is a true defensive specialist with great physical tools for his size and an all-out mentality guarding the perimeter. I'll add parenthetically, it feels like he does fit that sort of reputation.
The
grit and grind, the toughness of the Memphis Grizzlies. Wu says he's capable of heating up the ball and making opponents uncomfortable. He's strong, active hands, can fluster bigger players. He struggles as a shooter, which we've talked about, a career 34.1% three-point marksman on only one attempt per game, limiting his pathway to relevance. But Memphis will hope to cultivate that skill and develop him into a viable depth player. He doesn't have NBA-level ball skills and is undersized for an off-ball wing, but his excellent perimeter defense gives him a potential pathway to helping the Grizzlies if he can find a way to make some type of offensive impact, which is kind of how we've talked about Jamai Mashack at Tennessee for the last few years. I've heard you talk about Jamai Mashack as a prospect in that way for a long time.
I really believe if he just, once you're in the NBA now, now he has so much more time to work on his shooting form and development because he has to know his role is not going to be that. So when he gets the open shot, he's got to become a really consistent three-point shooter. And I think he can. Just people talking about him, especially when Barnes said he had a lot of those threes in the offseason going into the season. I thought, oh, man, this is going to be a transformation time where every time he gets an open shot, he's going to be real confident that he can make them. And shoot, he hit some game runners. Was one of them a three?
No, the Bama game, walk-off buzzer beater.
Yeah, so, I mean, he's got the potential. He just want to see that come to fruition, especially a guy like that who plays that hard on the defensive end. I think he's going to be able to do it. I really do. Because once you get with some shooting coaches now on that kind of level, we've seen what Grant Williams, let's look what he did. How many threes did he shoot in college at Tennessee? And then how many threes did he shoot? I'm going to just use the Celtics time because he was really on TV a lot. Man, that was kind of his role in bad boy guy, right? And he see what he did in an offseason with his jump shot. So it can happen. And that's the only way he's going to be able to stick and then have a nice long career.
Well, to your point, Zach Lyons, who is off today, was off yesterday as well, tweeting about it, hoping that this can bring the state of Tennessee together, bring a little bit of the Nashville Vols fan contingent together with Memphis, bridge that gap. We're trying to make peace. It's a lot of tense times around the world now. Let's make some peace between Memphis and Nashville. I'm a fan of Memphis playing. I always enjoy going to Memphis. I enjoy some of the quirks about Memphis. I understand Memphis has some of its issues. I think every mid to major city does. I get the numbers and all the things that kind of are associated with Memphis as a city. But I don't know. I always have a good time. Memphis is a city with a great history, culture, musically, food-wise, and a city with a lot of personality, which I appreciate. So I'm going to be rooting for Jamai Mashack with the Grizzlies.
Well, I think everybody here is going to be rooting for me if you're a Tennessee fan for sure, individually. Now, how does that work as a team? You can root for your former player for your university, but then does that creep into the actual team? Then does it creep into the actual city? I think there's a huge rivalry here, and I learned that when we moved here, and I had no idea it was this, intense. And, it's kind of big brother, little brother, and, they're upset maybe they didn't get the team, the Titans or whatever other pro teams that they were trying to get at the time when I think they had the USFL Memphis Showboats at the time, and then they thought, okay, we're going to get a team at some point, an NFL team, and then they felt like they got shaded there. And then you see what the Predators and the Titans have done, and let alone the soccer, how the city has evolved because of those pro teams. They feel like they missed the boat. And let alone the rivalry, and they won't play Tennessee and Memphis in basketball. So I just don't know if it'll end just because of Tennessee players on the team unless it's a superstar. I think that's the only way it will start gradually, even then, coming together as one. Just being here, kind of learning the history. You guys would know better than me being here the entire time. It's just I had no clue. I grew up in Indiana. There's no rivalry between Evansville and Bloomington to South Bend to Fort Wayne. There just doesn't exist.
I'd love to know another example of that now that you bring that up. Like in Texas, do people from Houston hate Dallas? Is there another state where there's this? That may you would know.
That may be. Well, when I could say when we were the Houston Oilers and the Dallas Cowboys, oh, absolutely there was a rivalry. Oh, yeah. The people couldn't stand. Now, I don't know if it went beyond just the teams. I don't think it did. I never felt that way. But as far as teams, there was hatred.
But Texans Cowboys they're different conferences, but
I don't know.
Is there any juice there if the Texans ever play the Cowboys?
I don't know. Mr. Adams was part of the original part of the NFL. It wouldn't even be in the NFL without his participation in bringing the AFL and AFC and all that. So I think it was just a rivalry because they were in a big market, and Houston was a big market as well, and they always promoted nationally the Dallas Cowboys. So I grew up a Dallas Cowboys, somewhat of a Cowboys fan. I was a Little League Cowboys, and so it got to me where I even hated the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, and they thought and wanted an all-Texas Super Bowl. Houston AFC, Dallas NFC. And they really believed my rookie year that was going to happen. They really believed it. And we would scrimmage them every training camp. And we would whoop their you-know-what. Yep. Because the Houston was always trying to prove that they were the better ones because the Cowboys was winning Super Bowls. See?
Yeah.
So the Oilers were the little brother there.
Well, 615-737-1045 is how you can jump in maybe on this topic, on these landing spots for these former Vols. Great couple days for the SEC.
Hold on. We got a caller.
We're going to get to the phones. We're going to talk about Chaz Lanier, his landing spot, but let's hear from Chris here. You can also join us on YouTube, by the way, 1045 The Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Chris chiming in on the idea of city rivals. What's up, Chris?
What's up, guys? Hey, St. Louis and Kansas City despise each other, especially in baseball. But when the Rams were there and Kansas City wasn't what they are today, obviously there was a little bit of heat there, too.
Oh, St. Louis, Kansas City. Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Okay. That was a great question, though. What other cities kind of have that internal rivalry within the state?
Yeah.
Wow. That's kind of interesting. Can you think of one, Jackson? Man, that's a... Ooh.
There's got to be something like that in Florida.
It has to be.
In Florida, I feel like.
Ooh.
Like, surely. I don't know. Maybe it's a Tampa, Miami thing. I don't know. I don't know. So,
do you think it's always going to revolve around the universities?
It feels like
maybe not. I don't know.
Sports are the easiest thing for it to be rooted in, right? But, there could be geopolitical stuff. Let us know. 615-737-1045. What's the biggest intrastate rivalry between two mid to major cities or small towns?
Lexington?
Louisville and Lexington. That's a fantastic one. That's really good. That's a good pull by Jackson.
One.
Obviously rooted in college basketball. So Chaz Lanier, 37th overall, number 7 in the second round to the Detroit Pistons. This is the rundown from Jeremy Wu. He says the Pistons were high on Lanier during the pre-draft process and were presumably thrilled to see him at this spot. After starting his career at North Florida and then breaking out as a senior, he had a solid transfer season at Tennessee that helped solidify him as a draftable prospect. His shooting ability makes him a good depth addition for Detroit, which continues adding floor spacers around Cade Cunningham and its other young stars with this pick. Like I mentioned, he joins another VFL and Tobias Harris, the Pistons account, putting out a little graphic of the two in their Tennessee jerseys. And it's a Pistons team that is trying to dig out of the depths from 2 years ago. Took a huge step last year from 14 wins to 44 wins. They were a playoff team. And they're about, mid-table in the NBA in terms of three-point shooting percentage.
Minnesota? Who did he get beat by? No.
Didn't they play the Knicks?
No, the Knicks. It was the Knicks.
It was the Knicks in the first round.
Minnesota's in the West, yeah. Okay, yeah, it was the Knicks.
So Pistons were 14th in the NBA in three-point percentage last year, and that's what Chaz Lanier brings. So what'd you think about that landing spot?
I really like it because Cunningham, you could see he's the A personality, he's the dominant, he's a superstar on their team. It's funny because I'm glad you brought up Harris because to me, that's what Chaz's game is exactly going to be. And so now you got the same type player. So is he going to be a rotational guy that comes off the bench and kind of fulfills that role? And I thought he needed to be on a team with some really great players and superstar caliber players. So, yeah, I think it's a good fit. He's going to have to toughen up a little bit. There's about Detroit is they are going to be mentally tough. And it's just the way it has to be when you're a Detroit Piston. And when I say that, I'm talking about defensively. He's gonna have to get down and get dirty a little bit, and he did a little bit with Tennessee, so he proved a little bit more there. But I think he's gonna have to step it up even more with better athletes. You're going up against. So yeah, I like the fit. I'm super excited for him, especially hometown guy from the Innsworth. My son even reminded me that he played with him in travel ball too as well.
Oh,
yeah, they were on the same team, but this was in 7th and 8th grade. Yeah, so he was shooting bombs then. Yeah,
at Innsworth.
No, middle school. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like they would cross half court and he was shooting from deep. We used to be like, what is he doing? doing? Swap. Oh, that's what he's doing. Okay. He must think he can hit those on a regular basis.
Power to him.
He was. I mean, he was definitely, he was hitting them because there was never a question after he started doing it like, oh, he shouldn't be doing that. We just in middle school. Nah, he was hitting them.
Speaking of the local ties, shout out to the Belmont Bruins, another former Bruin in the NBA, Will Richard, Florida Gator. That was a transfer from Belmont, drafted 56 overall. He is a Golden State Warrior.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, that's a nice one.
I got a little pipeline going at Belmont. You just had one playing in the NBA Finals in Ben Shepherd.
Yeah, Shepherd. Yeah, man.
Jacoby Gillespie's the starting point guard at Tennessee this year.
Mustache, though. He got to get rid of that. He didn't look cool out there.
I think he rocks it a little better than Buck. Buck's just doing like this Mike Vrabel cosplay thing. He just think he's trying to be like a. If you didn't know,
he's got a fascination with Vrabel.
Yeah, he's got a kind of a weird thing for Vrabel. He's the only good coach he's ever really covered to this point. So I think that's what he's trying to do with the mustache.
He better watch getting too close.
Yeah. Zach Lyons is in the FNM Bank chat. Says Jamai Mashack will unite the state of Tennessee. I appreciate it, Zach. I certainly hope he does. Now go on vacation. Go be on vacation. Disconnect a little bit. Two well-earned days off.
Yeah, he's acting like as though he's got some little paranoia. He can't get away from it. Like he's attached to cut the cord. Boom. When you go on vacay, man, go.
Yeah. Disconnect. I'm just holding it down for you. Don't worry. The seat's warm for you when you get back in here.
Somebody take
on
that
Monday.
man's laptop.
So, 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. By the way, 13 SEC players drafted, ties a record.
Wow.
Most of any conference. So 8 SEC players 13 SEC players, only 8 out of the ACC. 5 of those, the entire Duke starting 5, or their names called. And the SEC gets 5 in the first round, 8 in the second, 3 Florida Gators, 2 Tennessee Vols.
That's pretty unique in that the SEC said, 5 years ago that they were going to change the basketball platform by hiring big-time coaches, which is what they did. And now they're the best basketball conference, which is shocking for people to even think about where it used to be and where it is today in the basketball arena, man. They're the best conference now.
Again,
which used to be ACC and the Big Ten.
Easily. It was a slam dunk. 737-1045. That's how you jump in. Tell us some of the major city rivalries within the same state. We've got a submission for Pittsburgh and Philly from Harold in the FNM Bank chat. I'm not sure. I could ask my fiance about that. Is that a thing? She's from Pennsylvania. Do Pittsburgh and Philadelphia really hate each other that much? I don't know. 2 different conferences in the NFL.
That'd be interesting because I'd love to know the Eagles fans hating the Steelers more, or do they hate the Cowboys more?
Oh, there you go.
But that's not interstate. But, man, the city of brotherly love has to be I know you were talking about stadiums on EA Sports, but that has to be one of the ruckus stadiums there where the Eagles play in their fan base. And they have to be up there.
Maybe we'll ask Jordan Dejani about it. We've got a lot of NFL headlines to ask him about, too. Kind of been a newsy week in the National Football League. We'll get to all that and more with Jordan Dejani of CBS Sports next. This is Cover 2 on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Lucas Panzica with you alongside the hitman Blaine Bishop, hanging out until 3 o'clock. Happy to be joined by my friend Jordan Dejani of CBS Sports, talking all things NFL headlines, some of the recent work that he's been getting out there with CBS. But first, Jordan, we, of course, have to lead off with the topic that we were hitting on a little bit earlier. You are a Tennessee alum, so you know that Jamai Mashack was drafted by the Memphis Grizzlies with the final pick of the NBA draft. And I know Zach, the usual host on this show, is hoping it, bridges some gaps here. It kind of brings this Tennessee, Nashville, Memphis rivalry together. Do you have, I know you've got some North Carolina roots, do you have a submission for the best rivalry between cities, not sports teams, but cities? Is there one in North Carolina you could speak of?
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Good to talk ball with you on this fine Friday. I would probably propose Chapel Hill and Durham, North Carolina, if I could, to the debate. I grew up in both of those cities. I lived in the Triangle. I was born in Raleigh, lived there, lived in Chapel Hill, lived in Durham. So the UNC Duke rivalry is it's bigger than anything I can even talk about.
Wow.
Like when you went to school in elementary school, like that's all people would talk about all day was when Duke and UNC were playing basketball that evening. That's anything the students could talk about, the teachers could talk about. That's something that definitely stuck with me through my childhood. So as you guys would probably agree with, that's one of the biggest rivalries in sports, in my opinion.
Yeah. Where do you fall on that rivalry, Jordan?
Dude, I did not like any of those teams. My family is originally from Northern Virginia, so they were big Maryland fans. So that was fun because that was back in the day when Maryland was in the ACC. So we got to play those teams like UNC and Duke and NC State. So, I will say, I guess I sided a little bit more with UNC because I hated Duke. Like growing up, I thought Maryland and Duke had a much more heated rivalry. I didn't like Coach K. I hated JJ Redick. All those guys were so successful. So I guess I probably sided just a bit with UNC.
Okay, there you go. Jordan Dejani with us of CBS Sports. So a lot of headlines this week in the NFL. The biggest one happened early in the week, Jordan, with a 61-page document being revealed due to reporting by Pablo Torre and also Mike Florio that an arbitrator, a third party, ruled that the NFL essentially conspired to collude, trying to communicate to teams to avoid leveling up guaranteed money on veteran contracts. Of course, the conclusion was that teams did not accept or act upon this encouragement by the NFL. But what did you make of this whole report and what could possibly come out of it for the average NFL fan to have to take into consideration?
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about with this. And if you're wondering why the arbitrator sided with the NFL as opposed to the NFLPA, my guy Jonathan Jones at CBS Sports wrote an article titled "How Language Agreed Upon by the NFLPA Cost It a Verdict in Collusion Battle with NFL Over Fully Guaranteed Deals." And that specific language was clear preponderance of the evidence, which is a standard higher than, let's call it, preponderance of evidence. Basically, the NFLPA needed more evidence than they already had to win this case against the NFL. But if I could zoom out for a second, what I took away from this entire case was something that didn't have to do with contracts and fully guaranteed quarterback deals and things of that nature. I think that this whole saga showed that the NFL power structure is pretty flawed, right? Like when it comes to the NFL versus NFLPA, we always knew that the NFL had the advantage, but the NFLPA allegedly can't even elect a qualified leader that will fight for them to the lengths that they deserve. And then you go into the arbitration matters, which of course should be taken very seriously. And that process that we're talking about, the arbitration, is not even necessarily fair. And listen, like what's scary about this is that the union, the NFLPA, looks disjointed. And it's up to that union specifically to negotiate with the NFL about the future of the league. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but the NFL is looking to take over the world, right? More games abroad, more things that make life tougher on players. So with this next collective bargaining agreement, it's a massive, massive deal. And now you have to wonder about those who are in charge of representing the players' side.
Jordan Dejani of CBS Sports with us on Cover 2.
Well, Jordan, I'm going to go in a different direction here. I wanted to have a little bit of fun, too, at the same time. What superstar quarterback in the NFL has the most pressure to win a Super Bowl? And the first things come out, because these guys are great players, is Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. I'm kind of going down the line. But which one of those guys, Dak Prescott, has the most pressure to win one for their team?
Man, I mean, you just listed off a lot of great names. I feel like there is especially pressure on Lamar Jackson because the Ravens have been one of the premier squads in the NFL for several years now. And now we have a legitimate narrative that he falls apart in the postseason. When you look at the stats, I think it absolutely supports it. And as I mentioned, the Ravens have all this talent. They've had one of the best off seasons in the NFL as well. I think there is a tremendous amount of pressure on Lamar Jackson when it comes to finally getting to the big game and winning it. I guess you could make an argument for Josh Allen as well, but you brought up a really good name that I love, and that's Dak Prescott, right? People aren't talking about the Cowboys as legitimate contenders moving forward, especially after they had one of the worst off seasons last year. But Dak Prescott actually talked about this point exactly earlier this offseason. He talked about how his entire legacy matters if he wins a Super Bowl. That's all that matters when it comes to his legacy. So I think those comments in themselves kind of put a lot of pressure on him as one of those top echelon quarterbacks that needs a Super Bowl.
Well, speaking of legacy and great quarterbacks, still a solid quarterback in the NFL. Yours truly, the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers says that this is probably his last year. 2 questions. Do you believe him? And what would be a successful season for Aaron Rodgers with the Steelers?
Yeah, those are good ones. I would say that I 99% believe him. I'm going to leave the door open because if something wonky happens where he suffers some kind of injury that knocks him out, like towards the end of the year, maybe mid-season, he might be more willing to return for another year if things get off with the right foot with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I'm 99% sure that this is probably his last NFL season. Now, when it comes to the measure of success, that's a tough question because the Steelers have solidified themselves as this team that can go just a bit above 500, get in as a wild card to the playoffs, and then they don't make any kind of noise. And I've told you guys before that adding Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, I don't think does much to exactly heighten your ceiling. I still view the Steelers as one of those teams that can potentially make the postseason, but I'm not going to name them as a legitimate contender. So I think that Aaron Rodgers getting to the playoffs and winning a playoff game would be a successful season for Rodgers in his last year.
Well, you know, yours truly, Panzekas over there, Lucas, asked me a question about the top 10 quarterbacks and is, in my mind, Trevor Lawrence a top 10 quarterback? And, man, it made me ponder a thought, and I just sat back and thought about it. And I just don't think, just because he was the number 1 pick, he hasn't thus far in the National Football League proven to me that he's worthy of a top 10 quarterback. To me, a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League makes a difference even when your team is bad, even when your coaches are bad. They still find a way to win. I just don't feel like Trevor Lawrence has done that. Loved him in college, deserved to be the number 1 pick, hasn't lived up to that billing. Do you think he's a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League?
No, not at all. Not at all. And in fact, I would actually describe myself as probably more of a Trevor Lawrence fan than a lot of people out there listening right now. But there's no way I'm going to put him in terms of the top 10 rankings of current NFL quarterbacks. Like Trevor Lawrence has had successful games, and he's made some of those superstar throws that you want your franchise quarterback to make. And when I see that, I say, my gosh, this dude absolutely has the potential to be a top 10 quarterback. But he's been incredibly inconsistent. And now the other problem is that I'm kind of worried about his injury history. Like, go over his injury history over the past couple of seasons. I feel like it's worrisome, especially with some of the concussions he's suffered as well. So we know that the best ability is availability, and I feel like Trevor Lawrence's availability has been kind of sketchy at times. If he was healthy, he probably would have won that win-in game against Tennessee a couple of years ago. So I think Trevor Lawrence, of course, has a lot of potential. I think he could maybe be a borderline top 10 quarterback. And that's why I think the Jaguars are such an interesting team entering this season, because you bring in this guy like Liam Cohen, who's had success in terms of getting quarterbacks' careers back on the right track. Can he do the same thing with Trevor Lawrence?
It's right here on the chat there. Nick Ewing says Trevor Lawrence has the same career stats as Daniel Jones. Is that true?
Yeah, I believe that. I do believe that. Wow. But I think that's why you have to watch the games, right? It's a little different. I feel like with the eye test, I would probably lean more towards Trevor Lawrence as your franchise.
And Jones has had a couple more years, obviously, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that go into that. But if you're just a box score savant, then that is 100% factual.
Well, looking at box scores, with quarterbacks, last question here. There's a lot of debate on how you kind of develop a number one pick at quarterback. There's different ways that it's worked for different organizations. But I'm looking at the backup quarterback. Should the backup quarterback, in the best case scenario, be another unproven quarterback, young quarterback, or should it be a veteran quarterback? And if you do go with the younger quarterback as the backup quarterback, what does that say about what your thoughts are on with the starting quarterback that's still young too as well? Maybe makes a conflicting dynamic there just in case the backup gets in there and then all of a sudden does really well. Quarterback controversy built in immediately. What are your thoughts on what the Titans should do with Will Levis if given an opportunity to trade him?
Yeah, there are two different quarterback controversies, right? There's one where the starter is not playing up to his level, and then there's one where the starter goes out due to injury and the backup comes in and performs at a high level. That's the more desirable quarterback controversy. So to answer your question, it matters who you ask. And I'm not a general manager, but I'm someone who would probably lean towards the younger player with more upside compared to someone like, no offense, Brandon Allen or Tim Boyle. So specifically with the Titans, I would rather have Will Levis as my backup quarterback because I think he has more potential and he has more upside. Yes, I was there in attendance watching how disastrous the 2024 campaign was. I'm on board with everyone with that, but I think that Will Levis would be a more capable backup than someone like Brandon Allen or Tim Boyle. Now, when it comes specifically to what Tennessee is going to do with Will Levis, I was of the thought that he was actually going to be traded around the NFL draft, but of course that did not happen. So my next thought is, what if he's someone who can kind of follow the Malik Willis trajectory where he performs fairly well during the preseason and the Titans can pick up some sort of day 3 pick during that roster cutdown day and move off of him? That's the next possibility I'm eyeing, but at the same time, I'm not confident in that. Maybe there is an avenue where Will Levis is Cam Ward's backup quarterback.
There you have it. Jordan Dejani for the NFL for CBS Sports.
Jordan, this broke yesterday. Justin Tucker, who is currently a free agent, 35 years old, obviously amid several allegations from massage therapists about sexual misconduct, the National Football League has ruled that he violated the league's personal conduct policy. He is suspended for 10 weeks in the upcoming season. Doesn't mean he can't sign with the team. It just means he can't play in a regular season game until November 11th. Were you surprised at how swiftly the NFL came down on this? There hasn't been any legal resolution yet to the Justin Tucker situation.
Right, yeah, and I didn't expect any kind of legal consequences coming this quickly. In fact, I don't know if it's a criminal complaint or a civil complaint, which are different. But I'll also point out that the NFL usually does not rely on the other investigations outside of itself to come down with the punishment. We have plenty of examples of that. So I guess I can't say I was incredibly surprised to see a ruling handed down from the NFL.
You spoke with Broncos offensive lineman Garrett Bowles recently in an article, an interview that people can read at cbssports.com. You can also follow him at Jordan Dejani on Twitter to check out a link. Just talking about that breakthrough season in Denver. Obviously, that's the Titans' week 1 opponent. Bo Nix, after a fantastic rookie year, goes up against Cam Ward, who will kick off his rookie year in Denver. What did you take from that conversation with Garrett Bowles and kind of what he saw playing in front of Bo Nix, as the Titans, obviously would love to have anything close to the season that Bo Nix had with Cam Ward?
Right. I talked to Garrett and I asked him, have you started thinking about your week 1 opponent with the Tennessee Titans? And he didn't have too much to offer other than that he's excited to see what Cam Ward is capable of and that he's certainly not overlooking the Titans just because they were the NFL's worst team last year. But Garrett Bowles was beaming with positivity when it came to Denver. He was someone who has never had a winning record as a player during his career until this past season, and that's in large part due to Bo Nix, who he described as an absolute animal, someone who takes a different form when he steps onto the field. And he certainly performed like a quarterback that the scouting reports did not indicate he was capable of coming out of Oregon. But there is one thing I want to bring up that really caught my eye with my conversation with Garrett Bowles, and that is I asked him when the turnaround was for the Broncos season in 2024, right? Because they started off pretty slow. I think they started off 0-2. And he brought up something that I did not expect. He talked about how Sean Payton specifically scheduled this elongated road trip on the East Coast through weeks 3 and week 4, where they stayed at the Greenbrier and had a big team bonding event. And that is something that he believes really changed the trajectory of their season. And my first thought was the Titans are kind of doing something similar to that. It's not in the regular season, but for training camp, Brian Callahan is having these guys have a big road trip where it's going to be a team bonding event. So that's something that stuck out in my mind, because if it's something that can really change the course of the Broncos season, maybe it's something that can help Tennessee get off on the right foot as well.
All right, interesting stuff. Again, you can read his work at Jordan Dejani on Twitter and at cbssports.com. Jordan, appreciate the time.
No.
Good catch. You got one more?
Yeah, we got to ask about the local. Where's the trade value for Jalen Ramsey? Because there was a big deal that he was going to get traded. Obviously, no trade partners. So where are we at with Jalen Ramsey on the market? Trade market.
Yeah, so I've been pretty vocal in saying that I believe he's going to end up with the Los Angeles Rams. But the problem is, and Sean McVay's actually talked about this, he is due a lot of money. He just signed an extension basically last year. So when it comes to a trade with a player who is a legitimate cornerback one, who's due a lot of money, the questions have to be asked, what are you going to accept in terms of draft capital versus how much money is Miami going to take on to move him? And that's that fine dance that Miami is still engaged with when it comes to interesting parties for Jalen Ramsey.
And Trey Henderson, he will get signed, I'm betting on, but they also signed some deal with the city there with the Paycor Stadium, some new deal to do some upgrading to their stadium. Kind of take us through that a little bit there in Cincinnati.
Yeah, basically they signed a new deal that's going to keep the Bengals in Paycor in Cincinnati through, I think, 2036. And that was notable because there's several other franchises in the NFL that are looking to find a similar deal, such as the Kansas City Chiefs and the Washington Commanders. So that was notable for the Bengals to strike a deal with Hamilton County to be able to remain in their home for the future.
Oh, got you. And Henderson, you think he's going to get signed?
My gosh, Blaine, I have no idea. I've been waiting on some kind of conclusion at some point, man. If I had to put money on it, I'm just going to say yes, but I got to tell you, I'm not 100% confident in that. There has to be some kind of resolution soon, right? We're about to enter the month of July. Training camp is right around the corner. The Bengals need to stop being silly and get a deal done.
And one more question, though. I'm going to say the first name. I'm going to let Lucas say the last name since I don't know how to say it. Agbo.
Oh, goodness. Talking about the Browns pass rusher?
They released him.
Okoronkwo?
How good is he?
Okoronkwo.
What do you say? How good is he?
Well, yeah, just so the Titans be sniffing around about him and see, maybe if somebody they should be signing.
Well, if I'm honestly, yeah, I absolutely would. I know the Titans are kind of adapting this new big edge personality for their defense, but I would definitely sniff around this guy. He started in, I think, 13 games in his career, started in 5 last year, had 7.5 sacks over the past 2 seasons. If you're interested in edge help, 7.5 over 2 years, yes. But if you're interested in edge help, I would absolutely be talking to his agent.
Got you. Thank you.
Jordan Dejani of CBS Sports has been our guest. Good catching up with you, man.
Dude, you guys are the best. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it, JD.
At Jordan Dejani on Twitter is where you can find him. He hit on something there from his discussion with Garrett Bowles that is interesting. I want to, expand on that a little bit as it relates to the Titans and what they've been doing in their offseason program. I'd love to hear Blaine's thoughts on that. We'll talk about it next. It's covered 2 on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. The door to the studio has just closed with Robert and Jackson and Joseph all exiting. A parade of producers going out of the studio. Robert was about to go to Nashville Shores, but he sees it's about to rain, so he is stuck here.
It's gotten really dark, man. I mean, man, it looks like it's about to pour down, man. What did we know the rain was coming in? I didn't see it.
Pop up all day.
Pop up. Ooh, this don't look pop up-ish.
Does not.
This looks like stormish.
Looks
ominous.
angry.
Ominous.
Angry, yeah.
Angry storm.
Yeah.
So there was one
That's
thing.
how Lucas acts when he doesn't eat.
I've been munching all day. We've
That's
just
why I
been
gave him some
slowly
peanut butter
snacking.
M&Ms during the break.
Keep me happy. One thing that stuck out to me, Blaine, from that discussion with Jordan, talking about his conversation with Broncos offensive lineman Garrett Bowles, which, by the way, Garrett Bowles falls under that category for me that Terry McLaurin falls under, where it's like there's some players you're just happy for, man. Mm-hmm. Some players that have just been all pro caliber players that have just been laying it on the line year after year after year and have just been surrounded by just awful quarterback play, coaching, whatever it might be. The Broncos and the Commanders were able to turn things around last year behind two fantastic seasons by a rookie quarterback.
Great coach hires, though.
Absolutely.
Sean,
experienced veteran coaching hires with Sean Payton and with Dan Quinn. But Garrett Bowles is a guy that's like, you know what, man, that guy deserves a winning season. So I'm glad Terry McLaurin deserves some good quarterback play. I know you've got some ties to Terry McLaurin with y'all's high school being the same, but definitely glad to see the Broncos finally doing a little bit right by Garrett Bowles and him having some success. Can't remember what game it was, maybe a couple of years ago that he was doing a post-game interview and was just looked beat down, defeated, just tired of losing. So it's good to see. Anyway, he talked to Jordan about that stretch where they stayed on the East Coast. They had a few games consecutively on the road on the East Coast, and he talked about it as the turning point. Here's the quote from Garrett Bowles. When they stayed at the Greenbrier in West Virginia, they practiced all week there, and then they went up to play at the Jets, just away from home together for about 2 weeks. He said, quote, spending that quality time with your teammates in our organization and our coaching staff where you're away from our families and just really having a bonding experience is what I think was the turning point for our season. We ended up winning 2 games going into Tampa. No one thought we were going to do what we needed to do, and we handled business. And then going up for the week in the woods and spending time with each other in a very rural area where there's not a lot to do besides just hanging out with each other. And that's what we did. Says that was the turning point for the Broncos. And obviously, it just brings me back to the entire offseason program with how much emphasis Brian Callahan and his coaching staff placed on rearranging the locker room assignments in the locker room, where you're not just next to people that play the same position as you, and splitting the team up into 8 groups. And it sounds like stuff that you do at summer camp, right? It's very easy to dunk on as a family. Oh, great, they're doing team building, playing Red Rover or whatever they're doing. But I mean, for you, how much did you ever have an experience like that where that sort of offseason or that sort of experience in season made a significant difference for your football team? Like, how much stock did you put into what Brian Callahan was trying to do to just manufacture some leadership this offseason, which clearly was an issue last year?
Yeah, well, every player is different in that case. For me personally, just the type of player I was, I always felt that the chemistry was always key. So I really applauded the whole time Callahan and what he did there, especially in this era where you're getting not only new coaches, but you're getting players that move much more than when I was a player. So I think you want to get to know these guys a little bit. When you're a pro, you leave and go home. When you're in college, you leave practice, you go to the dorm, you go to your house, and typically you live with somewhat like your teammates, right?
Typically, times are changing now.
Yeah, but time is changing because of the money and then everybody having their own homes and everything else like that. But you're still continuing with internal bonding without the coaches having to do anything about that. So I think that's kind of a missing piece. Some teams come together sooner than later, and for that to happen, especially with a new coaching staff, a new coach, and Peyton, for him to even do something like that is, understands that he's been in this league, had a lot of success. He knows that he was going to have to do something like this. Is pre-planned. So I think we're learning what that may bring to the table this season. It may not work. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. But guess what? You get to know the other guy across from you, and you kind of play for them to a certain extent when you know that maybe they got something personal going on, but nobody's talking about it because it's personal, right? And so you're going to give I guess maybe a little bit of a slack, on game day. So, or at practice during the week if they're kind of down. So I appreciate it. I think I think the world of it, just because I think that's how you have success in the league. In any sports, to be honest, you got to have some form of that to be successful. It just doesn't, you wake up and you put on. That's why you can't just put all the best players on one team unless they decide they have to make sacrifices that, everybody's going to play a role, and you got to relish that role regardless, because that's what the coach wants you to do.
With those early Titans teams,
yeah,
it didn't feel like you guys had to manufacture leadership.
We didn't.
It was there, right? Have you ever been?
We were there together for a long time.
Right.
So, which is different in today.
Yeah, and this is a young Titans team, right?
Yes.
And a lot of them are still finding themselves in this league, a lot of the players on this team. Mm-hmm. But have you ever been in that situation, just period, where you're at a point in an off season where you're saying, we gotta mine for some leadership here because we haven't had it? Because the Titans clearly, there was a clear void there if Brian Callahan is putting that much of a public emphasis on trying to just manufacture it as much as he is this year. Have you ever been in that kind of situation at all?
Well, wait a minute. I'm not understanding. You're saying he was trying to mine leadership through those workouts or leaders?
So you tell me. I mean, what's the key difference?
I thought he was doing it because the cream of the crop always rises to the top. And what happens is when you start playing for one another, even in these, let's say, games that you're doing in the off season, you're going to start holding each other accountable. And amongst all of that, then will be the leader who everybody gravitates to on a natural deal, a natural basis. And that's what happens. So it's not something that's kind of manufactured. He's letting it evolve and take its course on its own. Whether you're a young player, a middle-aged player, or a veteran player, you'll see with all the different things that you're, implementing, that the leaders will rise. And that's just what happens. You're not saying, hey, you need, to me, when you start as a coach, start saying, you need to start being a little more vocal. I don't like when they say that. I don't like it. You know why? Because obviously, if the guy was that kind of person, he would have been doing it from the beginning or initially or eventually. If you had to go tell him, now you're trying to ask him to do something that he's uncomfortable doing, or he would have done it. It's just also like to say, Jeffrey Simmons is going to put up a 10-sack season because he got paid. Well, why do you think that that's going to happen when that never has happened in his career? It's never happened. So now we're asking him to do something that he has never done. So now you're asking for trouble, because then if you ask a player to do something he hasn't done, he's going to have to go out of his way to make that happen. So that makes you go out of scheme, out of system, to make you more as an individual player than team concept player. So I just think the whole concept of what people, here's what most organizations, most companies have success if everybody relishes in their role and they communicate amongst each other. And that's how you had success, because you're working as one. And that's what he's trying to accomplish.
So I guess it begs the question then, who's the most natural leader of this Titans team?
Oh, I have no idea.
Does it have to be Cam Ward for the Titans to have that sort of success that they're looking for in 2025?
It doesn't always have to be the quarterback, but I think he is.
But is that the biggest opportunity for it, with the sort of reputation that precedes him in that vein of showing up to Miami and on day one, day two, grabbing command of that team? It's different to do it in the NFL when you're talking about being surrounded by 30-year-olds rather than guys that are either your age or younger when you've been around the block at the college football level. But it does feel like Cam Ward has come in and kind of taken command, if we're to listen to some of the veterans, Dan Moore Jr., some of these guys talking about his presence.
Leader.
Right.
Not all quarterbacks are the same. I would say Cam Ward is, he's a natural born leader, has been a leader. For him to be able to transfer to 3 different schools, you know how much hard work he had to put in to get relationships with those players at those schools and to be vocal and then be the leader? So he was already built in that he was a leader. I think the other leader on offense is J.C. Latham. I believe that. Every time I hear him speak, I hear leader. I hear leader. The way he speaks is different, and especially when I heard him as a rookie. So sometimes most offensive linemen are not in that kind of situation where they can be the leader. I think he is. Yeah, that's just based off what I'm hearing from interviews. So I think those two are viable candidates. No question asked. Now, if you would have asked me that about Marcus Mariota when they first brought him, absolutely not. He was not that kind of guy. He was not vocal. He was the guy to say, I do my job, you do your job. And then now you go say, oh, we want you to be more vocal. That's not even part of his nature. He hadn't done it his entire life. Like, at any time that he was all the success, Heisman winner, he wasn't vocally getting after me. He may have had general conversations with guys, hey, man, I want you to run this route. But he's not talking to the entire team. So just because you play a position doesn't mean that you're going to be an automatic leader. Got to be real careful. Those guys come out and they speak out, and you'll know. You'll know.
It's been interesting to watch Marcus, speaking of the Washington Commanders, just the situation, the role he's found himself in, perfect.
Perfect for him,
right?
Yes.
As that sort of that resource for Jaden Daniels, as the backup quarterback, sounding board for the franchise quarterback, and a guy that could come in and win you a game or two with his talent
and
level.
He could show you flashes like, dang, that's the Marcus that we thought he could be.
Yeah.
Every time I watch him, I go, oh, man. That doesn't mean he's a leader.
Yeah. But he kind of found his form of leadership that way in Washington, while the Titans are looking for Cam Ward to take the reins.
But that leadership is based off of performance. We're talking about vocal leadership because that's also the other part of it. It's not just about performance. You can have other guys actually be the vocal parts of it and don't have to be the star player. So, that role in this situation with Cam Ward, I don't think that'll be the case. I think he's going to be the vocal leader.
Well, as we move along here, there was a list. It's list season, of course. It's July, and EA, the college football game, dropped its most intimidating stadiums to play in on the video game for the upcoming season. Neyland Stadium is a lot further down than Tennessee fans would have liked. Some major college football voices have spoken up on this, too. We'll tell you where Neyland ranks and get reaction next. It's Cover 2 on 104.5 The Zone.
It is 2:01. Good afternoon. From the 104.5 The Zone Studios, I'm Jackson Williams. The NBA draft finished up last night as 2 Vols were drafted in the second round. Chaz Lanier goes to the Detroit Pistons at pick number 37, and guard Jamai Mashack went with the 59th and final pick to the Memphis Grizzlies. Speaking of drafts, the NHL draft starts tonight, and the Nashville Predators hold the 5th overall pick in the first round. Draft begins tonight at 6 p.m. For your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. One more hour on 104.5 The Zone, along with the hitman Blaine Bishop. I'm Lucas Panzica, filling in today for Zach Lyons. Okay, this has made the rounds, and if you're out there listening, I'm sure you've heard about it one way or the other. College football, EA College Football 26, has put out the top 25 toughest places to play in the country. Tennessee fans are outraged, Blaine. They're outraged because Neyland Stadium ranks 12th on this list of the toughest places to play in all of college football. What's your reaction when I say Neyland, before we look at who's ranked ahead of them? Is ranked 12th in the country.
12th? Ooh, that sounds a little bit low. Like I'm gonna try to go to every SEC stadium. Haven't been to LSU, but when I watched it on TV, LSU and A&M, they're 12th man. They're pretty strong. Where are they at on the list?
LSU number 1.
Oh, really?
A&M number...
Because people keep saying you need to go at night, LSU game, a night game, but they said make sure you wear a mask.
A&M...
And I said, why am I wearing a mask?
Yeah, why a mask?
They said that you will smell weed all over the place.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
You got a drug test coming up? Maybe wear a mask.
I don't know, man. I just was like, what? They were like, hey, man, it's in the air in the stadium, man. That's why everybody's acting like a fool.
A&M number 11 on this list. One spot ahead of Tennessee.
Is it a couple Big Ten schools in there? I know. I played. Went to a Penn State game, so they were loud. Alabama was loud. I've been to that stadium. So are they on the list? Those two?
So it goes Penn State 2, Ohio State at 3, Sanford Stadium, Georgia 4, Bama 5. That rounds out the top 5.
Oh, okay. I have not been to Georgia. Is Notre Dame on there? I haven't been to theirs, but I've been invited multiple times, and I keep resisting because they didn't recruit me. I'm still pissed off.
No, I respect that. Yeah,
I'm getting past it, but it's really hard.
No. Keep that chip on your shoulder. I appreciate that.
I got to let it go.
I am surprised you haven't been in a Notre Dame game.
Yeah, I've been a couple times. I'm still just because I was true and true. My jerseys were the same in high school. I was a big fan, and man.
21st is where they rank in this
Notre Dame's 21st?
21st.
Oh, that's good for them.
Behind Utah. Which that place, hey, it gets rocking up in Utah.
Yeah, Notre
There's
Dame.
nothing else to do.
Place.
That's true. So we rounded out the top 5. Clemson 6, 4-7.
Clemson. Okay. I've been to Clemson, and I've been to a game, and it's a record band. But what number were they?
6.
Oh, I don't know about 6.
6. Well, we get the matchup of the Death Valleys. LSU going to Clemson this year, early in the regular season.
Maybe because I about thought I was going to pass out. It was so hot. I had to go down to halftime, and I never went back out. Like I just because it was loud though. Their stadium is, and I actually played there. We played them in '92. Almost got them, had them on the ropes, but they got us at the end there. Yeah, I played there. So the stadium is smaller though than most the bigger stadium. So I think it's a little easier. Do you guys think it's easier to be loud? What is their seating there? I felt like their stadium is much. When I went to Alabama, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I get to Clemson, I go, well, I don't remember it being like big like that.
Memorial Stadium. There are so many Memorial Stadiums in this country. It's not a very unique name, I would say. Memorial Stadium, where Clemson plays, has a capacity of 81,500.
Wow.
Yeah. So the one that I take...
typically, all these bigger ones are like 20,000 more or so, maybe? maybe.
Yeah. Beaver Stadium, obviously, is massive. Bryant-Denny Stadium as well. The one I take issue with the most is
You take an issue because Tennessee is 12.
Well, somewhat, yes, but also Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. Oklahoma.
I've never been there.
I have not either. So maybe I'm not equipped to talk. Jackson, did you go to that Oklahoma game last year?
No, but I had many friends who did, and I heard it did not hold a candle to Neyland Stadium.
Now, we take it with a grain of salt. Those are all Tennessee fans talking. But I know many people that have been to games at Oklahoma that tell me it is extremely underwhelming. And that game last season was Tennessee versus Oklahoma. It was the first ever conference game for Oklahoma in the SEC. It was Josh Heupel, the prodigal son, returning to Oklahoma as an opponent or as an opposing head coach early in the season. This is hype everywhere. Jackson Arnold is still the 5-star that they're excited about. And Oklahoma had a kind of a bumpy start to their year. They didn't look great against Tulane, but still, it felt like the type of environment that should have been rocking. Everyone I know that went to that game came back was like, just. And to be fair, that Tennessee Oklahoma never got anything really going in that game.
They kind of controlled it.
But even the pregame environment I heard was just like, So that's probably the one I take most issue with. Now, I think
that's surprising.
I think what EA Sports did here is put more emphasis than needed on how good the team will be. Because every stadium that's ranked ahead of Tennessee here, for the most part, are teams that have higher expectations than Tennessee this year.
So you're talking about now how they made their decision on who's better or not.
I think
that's what I was going to ask. What's the qualification?
I think some of these environments and how difficult it will be to play. This is how difficult it'll be to play in the video game in 2025 in the next edition of the video game.
Some form of what they think is really true.
I think Oklahoma's bumped a little higher because there's expectation. There's John Mateer coming over from Washington State. I don't know if there's a more heralded transfer quarterback in college football with higher expectations than Mateer, as Brent Venables in Oklahoma need to bounce back from that 6-win season. That's what I think the video game did. Whereas, Blaine, I think that, honestly, the best environments in college football, to me, it hardly matters how good the team is that particular season. Obviously, it matters to an extent, right? If you're 4-7, not going to be a whole lot of people packing the place out for the regular season finale. But when I think of one of the most electrifying atmospheres that I've seen from afar in college football the last few years, one of the first ones that comes to mind, a couple of years ago when Auburn had fired Brian Harsin and Cadillac Williams took over as the interim coach, and they hosted Mississippi State, an Auburn team that I don't even think made a bowl game. No, they definitely did not make a bowl game. Late season.
Yeah, I've been Auburn.
Cadillac Williams, former Auburn legendary running back, right? The interim coach. That place, Jordan Hare, was rocking, was insane for that, quote unquote, meaningless game, bowl eligibility not even on the line. Just an Auburn legend stepping in as the interim for a fired head coach that had a tenuous relationship with the fan base and the program in general.
So you're saying it was on the level when Cam Newton was there?
I would say, yeah.
I would. No way.
I would. Just looking at that environment, just that sort of that release from Auburn fans of feeling like a new era was coming. Auburn's been very mediocre since then. But all that to say, I don't think it matters as much as this list is putting emphasis on how competitive that team is for that respective season. In college football, I don't think it matters.
To me, it should go over a span. That maybe that's the question. I mean, Jackson, how should they be determining what is the best atmosphere at these stadiums? Because to me, it doesn't matter if they're good or bad. Their fan base is so rampant and they're so crazy that they're always like this. I mean, no?
I think there's an element of an eye test. You see these games on TV, you see these environments.
Yeah.
I think there's an element of home records I think should go into it. Tennessee's lost one home game in the last 2 years. And so I think that should be into it. But I don't know exactly how they're doing it, but I don't think home records mean as much. I think they are, like Lucas said, going on expectations for the season.
Oh, to me, that's not the way to judge expectations for the season. I mean, let people call in and tell us, what was the best atmosphere outside of Tennessee where they've gone and go, wow, man, this is different. I mean, I would say Ohio State, Michigan, those atmospheres was pretty good. I mean, it may be a little underwhelming from SEC, but just because the size. So, yeah, I'd love to know, man.
615-737-1045. Can we hear from Josh Pate on this, Jackson? Josh Pate of CBS Sports, Josh Pate College Football Show, went on a bit of a diatribe on this against this NCAA toughest places to play list. Let's hear from Josh Pate.
I got all the respect in the world for the folks at EA. To have Tennessee outside the top 10 of toughest places to play in college football is evidence of drug use. Not only is Tennessee top 10, Neyland Stadium's the toughest place to play in college football. Don't start with me. You can go argue with this wall over here. I've been there for the best of it. This right here is not footage that we ripped from a network. That is straight from the eye, Josh. I shot this myself. I've been there. I've been a part of it. Deafening. And also, there is the psychological factor of the fact that Rocky Top's the most annoying sound in the world to anyone who's not a Tennessee fan. So you practice with it all week, blaring on the loudspeakers, and everyone's drilling it into your head. You got to go beat Tennessee, or this is what you're going to hear. And it's great if you go beat them and shut them up. But if you don't, do you know what it's like to be trailing Tennessee? Tennessee takes the lead on you in the fourth quarter, and they're just blaring Rocky Top. You got 100,000+ people singing it at the top of their lungs. Psychologically, it does something to you because you convinced yourself all week, we ain't letting that happen. And then it starts to happen. I've never been in an avalanche before, but I imagine Tennessee taking the lead on you in the fourth quarter and Rocky Top blaring during one of the 9-minute commercial breaks you're going to take, depending on the network. That's what an avalanche of orange feels like. Bill Martin, avalanche of orange. Get the marketing ready. Get the promotion machine ready. So I not only do I have them top 10, not only do I have them top 5, I got Tennessee as the number 1 toughest place to play in college football.
That's Josh Pate giving his thoughts on that EA list. And he put out his own toughest places to play, where he ranked 12 teams exactly. Tennessee number 1, like you just heard him outline. He goes LSU 2, Penn State 3, then Oregon, and then Florida rounds out his top 5. Followed by Washington at 6. He's got the Washington Huskies above Auburn and Alabama and Clemson. And Ohio State is his number 10, with A&M and Georgia rounding out the top 12. What's the craziest environment you played in college at Ball State? That you played in, not just that you've been in.
No, I played in. Yeah. It might have been, it was either Wisconsin. Wisconsin was pretty, they were really good back then. So, yeah, Wisconsin. So that was probably, we're only going to play 2 or 3 teams out of conference. So naturally, none of the MAC schools were. They were worried about attendance at that time, especially when it got cold. So, yeah, always the games early on in the season. So, yeah, I would say Wisconsin.
But you got to experience Penn State when Chase and played there with Ball State, right? Yeah,
that was actually, I thought that was kind of ruckus. I couldn't believe the atmosphere there. Then I watched them again. Like, I think they played a night game that same season. And I was like, whoa, that's even way worse than it was because, they had the game at Ham, the third quarter versus Ball State where this game was close. I forgot who they were. Oh, I want to say it was Ohio State. And it was, man. And I know it's because they want to beat, Ohio State and Michigan. They can't beat. That's everybody else they can beat in the Big Ten. So even in the country to a certain extent, besides SEC schools. So, that Penn State was up there. I knew they would be up there high. I didn't know they would be that high. What, he had them third there, Josh Pate?
Yeah. Penn State, he had third behind LSU. Speaking of LSU, what do you think, if we're just talking environments, what do you think will be the better early season atmosphere? Week 1, we get these 2 games. We get Texas at Ohio State, and we get LSU going to Clemson.
Oh, I don't know. What do you think, Jackson?
Strictly on atmosphere in the building. Texas at Ohio State or LSU at Clemson? Ohio State coming off of a national championship.
This is the first game of the season?
Oh, Texas,
Week
Ohio
1.
State.
I'm going to say that Texas, Ohio State.
That's going to be the game.
I'd go with Clemson.
You go Clemson?
I think the expectations for Clemson this year
to be good.
There's this feeling.
Is that quarterback?
With Cade Klubnik at quarterback.
Yeah.
There's this feeling. There's just kind of this scrappy, hungry feeling right now around Clemson that Dabo Swinney just has to be relishing, right? Because Clemson went from being at the top of college football to this team that was lagging behind, that just isn't keeping up with the times. Mm-hmm. And
he's the one that said we're not going to do any transfer portal, and now they are.
Yes,
Selective.
Now they're sprinkling it in.
Mm-hmm.
They're sprinkling it in. but they're going to be one of the more talented rosters in the country. So Dabo Swinney, like the thing that Kirby Smart has been so masterful at Georgia about has been convincing some of his best teams that nobody believes in them, right? Like how often have we heard that from Georgia players after winning a national? They said we'd go 6-6. Nobody said that. You're the preseason pick to win the SEC. Dabo Swinney, although Clemson is getting a lot of attention in the preseason, they're going to be one of the national championship favorites. Cade Klubnik's right up there with Heisman odds, number 1 pick odds. But Dabo Swinney does get to kind of hammer that a little bit with his team in how Clemson has been viewed over the last couple of years in college football. So I'm fascinated to see how they respond to that in 2025 with a team that will be equipped to make a run at the college football playoff, especially in a weak ACC, which they were able to get out of and make the playoff anyway last year. As a legitimate national championship contender, Clemson will be there hosting an LSU team where back's against the wall at this point, right? It has to be for Brian Kelly with the expectations that come with being the head coach at LSU.
They always start off slow and lose the games early.
Always lose game 1. Yeah. Both of those games against Florida State. Brian Kelly smashing the table after losing to USC in Vegas, like 6-6 USC team. So the pressure that's mounted on both of those programs, I think that's going to make for a fascinating in-game atmosphere. And Ohio State, Texas is going to be fun. It's going to be jumping. Arch Manning will get his start week 1. Ohio State will be celebrating that national championship still. But it feels like the stakes are going to be so sky high in week 1. So the former
national champion versus a Texas team that was a Final Four.
Yes, that also expects a championship. Yes. I'm
and
still
we'll
looking.
Have a Manning at quarterback.
Yes.
And then
I'm still looking at LSU Clemson.
I don't know. Who are you looking at? I'm
looking at
Ohio State,
Texas. I think LSU wins that game by multiple scores.
That's what I thought when they went up against USC last year and Florida State the year before that. Multiple scores.
This is where my bias is going to come in. I'm usually not like this. I just think Brian Kelly's overrated, and I think he directs pressure to his team and blame, and that is what's going to be the downfall because he's going to put so much pressure on him to win off the beginning of the season. I just think the players are just not going to respond to him the way they should. It's just, because there's no way he should be better. They should be better with the type of recruiting classes they've had. Man,
pressure's high on both he and Steve Sarkisian for sure. But I think Steve Sarkisian has more goodwill with that Texas fan base right now in that program in general than Brian Kelly does with LSU. Where right now with LSU, it's all right. Show me. With Brian Kelly this year.
There's no pressure on Swinney, though. You think it's pressure?
There's always that.
Internal pressure.
Yeah, sure. But not nearly to that extent, no. Not nearly to that extent. So we'll see. Those are 2 fun week 1 matchups, man. Like Tennessee fans were kind of griping about not being a primetime game. Playing Syracuse in Atlanta, they get the 11 a.m. Central slot, but I got no problem with it. Let that game be done, taken care of, so you can sit back and watch the matchups between contenders, actual contenders, in 2025 later on in that day.
What do you think? What are your expectations for Tennessee this season? Record-wise.
My baseline expectation is 8-4. I think like anything below 8-4, and I will be slightly disappointed. And that's just because of the floor that I believe that has been established under Josh Heupel. I think there is a floor of 8-4-ish under Heupel, where a bottoming out in the Heupel era feels like 7-5, whereas previously a bottoming out for Tennessee football meant 5-7, 4-8. 8-4 is where I'm placing the barometer at the moment, having no idea what they're going to get out of Joey Aguilar if he is the starting quarterback. But that's just because of what Heupel has established in terms of the talent profile. It's a fascinating thing this year, Blaine, because they're a talented football team, but they are a completely unproven football team.
Now, to me, the question will be, everybody's talking about quarterback. Well, while that's being decided, and that still could be going into the regular season, I have no idea. Will their defense continue to rise and hold the fort? Do they have enough?
Exactly.
On the defensive side to kind of manage through to figure out who is that guy at quarterback.
Exactly. I mean, when you look at the most talented players on this team, last year you could have said James Pierce Jr. We knew what he was, right? You could have gone down the list. The most talented players on this team, with the exception of Jermont McCoy, who is coming off that ACL, but if he's healthy and has a nice year coming back, will be a first-round pick. The most talented players on this team are Mike Matthews, who we haven't seen it yet, right? The former 5-star receiver. Joshua Josephs. We still kind of need to see it in terms of the production, right? David Sanders Jr., who will be a true freshman. Just talking talent profile. So talented but unproven kind of characterizes Tennessee this year, and it makes for a fascinating season.
Yeah, well, and bringing that to the offensive line.
Yeah.
A lot of changes there. So, hey, they're going to be ready to rock and roll.
We'll see how ready the Titans are to bounce back from a dreadful 2024. But ESPN put out a list proposing one final offseason move for every team in the NFL. An interesting one for the Titans and for some other AFC South teams, too. We'll tell you what that is next. It's Cover 2 on 104.5 The Zone.
For many of you who have lived here a long time, you already know Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee area for your European car repair needs now for 26 years. We've all gotten to watch them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, we are now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from Dairy Queen. And Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. So pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in the barn of his backyard of a single-wide trailer and now grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can visit them online at myeurofix.com. That's myeurofix.com. But I always tell Blaine, said you.
Cover 2 is presented by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, with you until 3 o'clock. Along with Blaine Bishop, I'm Lucas Panzica, in for Zach Lyons today. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. The article by ESPN's Aaron Schatz proposes one final offseason move for all 32 teams. We're going to tell you what they propose for the Titans in just a moment. But first, to the phones, let's hear from John, who wants to talk about Cam Ward. Hey, John.
Hey, guys. I had a question for Blaine. As a veteran player, how do they respond to a rookie being a leader?
Well, that's always interesting when people ask that. And, because now you're dealing with grown men, and at some point in time, he'll gradually ease into this role of being a vocal speaker. It's real easy because he's the quarterback. So he's naturally already talking to a lot of people anyway. So it's not looked upon that like that in sports, that because you're a young player, you can't be vocal and lead. It's not that kind of dynamic. If your quarterback is going to speak, it's like your middle linebacker is going to speak. Everybody's going to listen. So it's not kind of viewed upon just because he's a young player, especially if he's playing an impactful player. It's not going to matter. It doesn't work like that. It's no different if you bring in an executive at an office. It's actually now the office manager. That guy is going, or lady is going to be the leader of the office. Just because they're young, you may spite them a little bit because they're younger than you, but you're definitely going to be listening because there's a reason why the boss put them in that position. So the dynamics of pro sports is really no different than corporate world. I think people just view that as so different, and that, it's so much different than because of the athleticism that's involved. Leadership is built within the individuals, and no matter your age. Didn't matter.
Yeah, and you bring up that comparison a lot.
Yeah.
That the corporate world sort of...
Very much the same.
Yeah, the things that are congruent with being a professional athlete. I mean, admittedly, I also kind of had that in the back of my mind when it came to Cam coming over, just grabbing the reins of this team.
It's an honest question, no doubt.
Right, like just the idea of him doing it with 22-year-olds in Miami and now doing it with, grown men in the NFL on day one. But it, like you said, the quarterback position, that it does feel different, right, than it being your first-round pick edge rusher or offensive lineman that's trying to boss around the other four starters.
You heard the two positions I said? Middle linebacker and quarterback.
Yeah, who are going to be vocal anyway.
They're going to guys. First of all, they're in the front of each huddle, so they're the ones already speaking. So you have no choice but to listen to them. So then when they speak, let's say they speak after they call a play, well, you're already listening. So you're already tuned in. So those leadership skills are built in, and some take it further than others because of their style.
Speaking of the middle linebacker position, we teased this ESPN article. The one final offseason move proposed by ESPN's Aaron Schatz for the Titans is signing linebacker Kaiser White, the former Charger, Eagle, and Cardinal. He writes, the Titans don't really have a lot of inside linebackers on the roster that they can trust. Tennessee signed Cody Barton away from Denver, but nobody else at the position played more than 10.5% of defensive snaps last season. He says a strong veteran to play up the middle would be a big help, and White is still out there. He's a steady player who had 35 more tackles last season for Arizona than any other Cardinals defender other than Budda Baker. So he's going off-ball linebacker, where if it was me, Blaine, I would have put out an edge rusher. Zadarius Smith is still out there. Okoronkwo, who was just released by the Cleveland Browns. Yeah. Are you surprised to hear an off-ball linebacker brought up as one final off-season move for the Titans, who are holding an all-out competition right now for that starting spot next to Cody Barton?
No, I'm not, especially the young players. But I think if you look at where the Titans are at, I think a veteran linebacker opposite Cody Barton wouldn't be the case. I would go. Naturally, that's what they're doing, but that's not why I'm saying it. I'm saying it because this is not a playoff contending team like that. If it was, now I'm probably looking for more veteran-ish type linebacker. We're in the developmental stages and building something here. We have to now let our young players play that we've drafted, put some stock in and see what they've got. Whether it's James Williams to Cedric Gray to, whoever's on the list. Otis Reese, who's kind of been here, but he's still kind of unproven. So I think you got to look at all those guys and see what you got. To be at this point in time, what are you got to lose at this point right now? I mean, if the Titans squeaked in and made the playoffs, they would be at the very bottom of that, and you could say, man, that was a heck of a season. So then those guys would have developed into really good players if they made it that far. So you got to see what you got. You got to go with them. As far as middle linebacker, you got one veteran guy. I think letting see what you got out of those other guys is perfect. You drafted them too, two different drafted guys.
Exactly.
And you put something in them. I mean, you put stock and money and draft capital.
Draft, develop, retain as sort of the motto for this regime. It doesn't necessarily mean that those guys have to be guys you drafted, right? It's okay to develop and retain players that were drafted by a previous regime in this organization. We'll see if that happens. Mike Borgonzi obviously did not draft Cedric Gray or James Williams or Otis Reese or any of those guys. But so to you, the priority is still bringing somebody in on the edge, right? In terms of that last move.
And I don't know if you'll get someone that's really impactful, but if you're talking about a 5-sack guy that can come in and be part of the whole rotation, I think you can never go wrong with, a pass rusher at this point in time. And you know what? There's a part of me, I want to say this, more veteranish wide receiver. And I want to say that it's still got a lot left in the tank. And when I'm saying I'm just kind of different than what they've got. Like, okay, if Restrepo makes this team on the active roster, then you didn't do enough. And that's nothing against Restrepo. So then you're telling me he's better than, let's say, I don't know if he signed with somebody, Elijah Moore or Hunter Renfrow. Guys, I know what they bring to the table. And that's when you're thinking about players like this is, if we want depth pieces to kind of help us get over the hump. They may think the guys they have, and they may be there. So they don't want to bring in people who then stunt their growth and don't let them play as much as they should.
By the way, Renfrow is a Panther. Moore is a Buffalo Bill.
Right. Yeah. And both of those guys were out there. So
late signings.
Like
late April.
They drafted
Moore.
These young guys. So I'm thinking, reason why I say that, just in case you have injuries, if you got to play DK and the Eric Aminer, however you say his last name. Al Manor, you got to play him. Now, I think Al Manor is going to start. Jefferson's going to be in the rotation. And I think DK is going to be moving all over the place and kind of that rotational guy. So it'll be real interesting to see how much Lockett has left in the tank. If you're trying to develop and grow these players, will he be more veteran-ish? I'm helping these guys grow, teaching them on the outside, but not playing a lot? Or is he playing a lot and is DK rotating in with him or whoever that may be?
It's why I feel really good right now, Blaine, about Van Jefferson making this roster, even though he signed for what's basically vet minimum. Blaine, he's one of 3 receivers that have ever done anything in the league right now on this roster.
I know he only had 200, 300-something yards. I love the way he runs routes, and he's a natural catcher. It is almost like he was born to catch. I mean, like, it is so smooth as ice. I don't know. Nobody even is comparable when I watched him. Yeah, so, there's a reason why he's where he's at. So hopefully we get him when he's super hungry. And I mean hungry to dominate and show that he deserves a long-term type contract. Not maybe with the Titans, but then you catch him in a year where he's hungry and a good guy. And a hometown guy.
Local guy, Ravenwood High School.
So that's really cool to see if that can manifest into something.
Yeah, such a promising start in his rookie year. That 800-yard season with the Rams, won the Super Bowl. I remember the story after the Super Bowl that he had to leave the celebration because his wife was in the hospital and gave birth to his child. I remember we had Ravenwood, now former Ravenwood coach Will Hester. Buck and I had him on the radio show because Will was there, and he kind of ran us through. It was one of the bigger stories of the aftermath of that Super Bowl. Production's just tailed off since then for Van Jefferson.
Yeah. And you could say that it's because of opportunity. Now, why he didn't get him, you just never know. You don't know. I don't think it was injury-based. I think he got caught in the numbers game, and then eventually just got pushed down, and he started with the Steelers, did he, right? So how does he only have 300 yards or whatever the numbers were? You go, but dang, what, did they have quarterback issues? Maybe they had 2 different quarterbacks. Russell, and we had, Mr. Fields there. So you just say, well, that was just 2 quarterbacks. He should have been able to get at least 500-600. I'm talking about NWI type numbers because he's a better player than NWI talent-wise.
Yeah, for sure.
Talent-wise. Doesn't mean always you're the better player. See? Talent sometimes can only take you so far. And that's why I'm so critical of Trevor Lawrence. He has all the talent. We can't keep making excuses for him because of the coaches, because of the GM. Well, ultimately, you're the player. You have to develop and grow regardless of what you're out there doing. Ultimately, you need to take control of it all, and your talent will shine. And it just hasn't manifested to this number one pick, Superman type player. I haven't seen it.
Well, and to that point about, excuses, X amount of coaches / coordinators in the last X years. We did that with Levis, right? 5 coordinators, 5 offenses in 5 years. You know who's about to be on his 4th different offensive play caller in 4 years? Cam Ward, who's bounced around from team to team.
It didn't matter, did it?
And managed to just elevate at every step.
Getting better.
So it applies to some. It doesn't apply to others.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it applies to Cam Ward in his rookie year, which will obviously be a different challenge. On this list, a couple interesting ones proposed by ESPN for the Colts and the Jags, keeping it in the division. For the Colts, the one final proposed offseason move from Aaron Schatz is safety Justin Simmons, who I remember the people clamoring for the Titans to sign Justin Simmons last year. Remember, he was out there, all-pro player.
Right, for the Broncos, right?
Never ended up happening for the Titans. Obviously, they brought in Jamal Adams, and we know what happened there. 31 years old, Justin Simmons was a member of the Falcons last year. And
how did he do?
I don't know anything about what he did last year. With the
I have no idea.
Yeah. Maybe that's says
so
enough.
He signed a 1-year deal, and he's still out there?
So he signed he signed with the Falcons in August, a 1-year, $7.5 million deal that was fully guaranteed upon signing. He was competing for a starting role. He won the starting strong safety job to start the regular season along with Jesse Bates. And, had an okay season, finished the year with a couple interceptions. If you're to look at PFF grades, a 59.9, which was 113th among qualifying safeties in 2024. So not the Justin Simmons that we were used to. He was a starter for the Falcons, and that's about it.
So you think we should sign him?
No. I'm just saying that's the proposed move for the Colts. And the one for the Jags in this article.
Oh, yeah. I think he fits in there, coach. Sometimes the player's success also has to do with scheme in the system and how he fits in the scheme to make him, accelerate how good he really is. And that's hard to do in one season. So I think he can play in most schemes. So that baffles me that he wasn't better than that, to be honest.
The proposed move for the Jags here by Aaron Schatz, Jadeveon Clowney, who he says the Jaguars could use a third strong edge rusher who can rotate with Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker, and there are a number still on the market. I add the Titans have a pretty big need there still as well. Schatz says, I'm picking Clowney over Matt Judon, Preston Smith, or Zadarius Smith because his strength setting the edge on run plays makes him a good sub for Trayvon Walker specifically, talking about the fit for Clowney with Jacksonville.
That sounds like what the Titans were looking for.
Isn't that so interesting? If Jadeveon Clowney did not have the experience that he had here, the knee, all the hype when he came in, just didn't produce, the knee messing him up, played half the season, then out the door. He's been productive, Blaine.
Everywhere.
He's brought something everywhere else he's been.
Did he get 10 sacks with the Ravens?
He had a career year in Baltimore after his Titans stint. If Jadeveon Clowney did not come to the Titans in that 2020 season, Titans fans would be slamming on the table for Clowney. Would they not right now? I understand he's an aging player, but just the name and just that level of production, that is kind of what it's about as much as you can hope for a guy at that age, at this stage of his career, at this stage in the offseason.
How did he do with the Panthers last year? Because that's his hometown, right?
Yeah, he went back home.
So what did he get, 5 sacks?
He's from Rock Hill, South Carolina. Yeah, 5-sack player.
Yeah, he went 10-5.
He finished with 5.5 sacks with the Panthers after a 9.5 sack season with the Ravens in 2023.
Yeah,
played in 14 games last year, played in all 17 for the Ravens 2 years ago.
Yeah, so I think he's a rotational piece. I definitely think he could help.
Do you agree with me that if the Clowney Titans experiment in 2020 had never happened,
oh yeah,
you think people here would be yelling for the Titans to sign Clowney?
Because they were then.
Oh yeah,
and I was like, hey, we better be careful. There's a part of you that you don't know if he's a pure pass rusher or if he's more better inside than outside. And he showed that with the Ravens that he was an outside pass rusher. He did. I mean, I watched him. I was like, man, we didn't get any of that out of him. None of it.
Isn't that the
he looked
strangest thing?
Total different place. So it might have been his knee. And maybe he was trying to play with the knee. And a lot of players make the mistake, myself included. I mean, you just try to think you can fight through it, and you just can't get it done like you used to. And it's just because you need surgery, just a little scope, clean out, and then, feel so much better. Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
He's 32.
Yeah, but those veteran guys, at pass rushers, it's a little different mechanism. How old is Trey Hendrickson?
Is he 30 or 31? I mean, he's not much younger. He's 30. Yeah. He's 30 years old. He will be 31 in December.
Those pass rushers, man, because it's more about, technique. It's not just about speed. So those guys know how to rush the passer, man. I would take my pass rushing all the way up to 35. Yeah, they're those guys. Those guys who are proven over and over again, they're getting 8 to 10 sacks. That's not a coincidence. You go, man, because you look at Trey Hendrickson, I don't feel like he's just some blazer. I don't feel like athletically he's just so much better than. Nah, he knows how to rush the passer. Yeah.
Well, nobody's been better at utilizing those aging pass rushers than the Ravens, right? When we mentioned Clowney's 9-8. Your guy, Chuck Smith over there, kind of knows what he's doing.
Yeah. I think he does.
Dr. Rush over there. Kyle Van Noy just had 12.5 sacks for the age of 34.
I was like,
33. He just turned 34.
I just talked to him last week. I said, hey, man, how you get on? They say, hey, man, I tried to tell you, man, they need to come work with me. That's all he would say. And he would do just like you're doing, laugh. He would just laugh. Like, hey, man, you need to come work with me. I'm going to get you 10 sacks. I'm going to get you paid.
He's been the secret sauce over there.
I wouldn't be shocked if they signed him back. I'm not saying that because he didn't even bring him up, but just because if something happens to some of those guys, they always love depth piece pass rushers. They've always been that way.
Yeah. So Titans could use another one. We'll see if they end up adding one. It just feels like there's too much weight, Blaine, on the shoulders of Femi Oladejo to just be a productive NFL pass rusher right out of the gates as a developmental. He's a second-round pick. I get it. You want something out of your second-round pick his rookie year. He's played less than a season in his life as an edge rusher. Just feels like there's too much riding on Femi Oladejo being productive for the Titans off the edge this year.
I feel personally that he has to get like 5 sacks.
Yeah.
To be worthy of the second-round pick. I don't know why I feel that way.
And if he doesn't, you're relying on Arden Key and Draymond Jones and the interior of your defensive line.
I will say my expectations changed when I saw him at camp.
Okay.
It did. He is a massive, fast, twitchy human being that I think is capable of being a stud at some point in time. Maybe not next year, but that's why I'm saying, I'm up in the ante. I think he should be in the rotating a lot and maybe even eventually starting at some point this season and can give us the kind of pass rush I think we needed.
Firebrinker on the FNM Bank chat says, no one forced them to pick him. He's got to produce. End of story. Yeah. Talking about Oladejo.
Yeah, those top 2 picks, man, they supposed to be impactful players immediately.
Yeah. So 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Cover 2 is presented by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. We'll wrap up the show coming up next. Cover 2 is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors.
Yeah.
One more segment here, hanging out until 3. 615-737-1045 is how you get in.
Where's Ross, man? He took off today?
Took a day off.
Oh, my gosh.
What's he doing?
He told me he was mulching today.
Mulching? He has another job?
No, just at his house.
So you got to put to work, huh?
I'm sure he was trying to beat the rain, too.
Looks like great mulching weather, doesn't it, Lucas?
Yeah.
Well,
that's cool.
Hopefully it's
Is
good
it cool
driving
off?
weather. I don't know.
It looks like it should, but I'm here for another hour there with the mayor on 3HL.
That's right, hanging out.
It's a 3HL reunion.
Oh, yeah. What are you guys going to talk about?
I have no idea. He
Mystery
hadn't
box.
told me anything. So that I don't know what that consists of. That means I may not be talking very much at all. I don't know.
So Don Davenport on vacation. Ron Slay went under the knife today. So
Got a new knee.
That's right. Brand new knee. I expect to see Slay skipping and jumping into the studio on Monday.
Oh, my.
I don't know. Probably not going to be that quick of a
He's
turnaround.
not even taking off a week?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many days he's taking. I wouldn't be surprised, Blaine, if Slayer strolled in here.
He's got
on
a
Monday.
new knee. He got knee replacement, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past Slay, though.
Yeah.
The normal human being like myself, I might have, I got to take a week because it's going to be hard to get around. Like, I mean, and then just imagine, he's a tall guy now.
Could be a stormy afternoon. I hope it's not too bad. I'm about to get in the car and drive 7 hours. What's your prime way to pass the time for a road trip like that? 6.5, 7 hours. I'm about to drive up to Toledo, Ohio, which is one of the worst cities I've ever been in my life.
What do you mean? Like, what do you listen to? Music?
Yeah. Like, what's your primary way of passing the time?
Oh, I listen to different podcasts, educational podcasts.
Oh, educational? Like, what are we talking? Like history or like
Well,
sports?
we're talking about history to sports to, I'll have my whole deal set up where I can just push, and get it on my phone and I'll just get it to going and I'll listen to the whole way. Finance to, whatever. Politics. It'll go into a vast array of different things. I just love listening and learning.
That used to feel, how are you with long drives? Do you mind them? Do you dread
I'm
them?
not a big long drive. I can't think of the last time I have a long, like you talking about 7 hours?
I'm talking about 7 hours.
I'm not. I can't go past 4. No way.
Really? That used to be 4. After 4 used to be the spot where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. But I'm going up back and forth.
Well, you have no choice. You're young, but I'm older, so yeah, I've got to. Yeah, if it goes over 4 hours, I need to be flying.
Yeah, I'm used to it at this point.
Yeah, so not unless it's a last minute trip, or something. But yeah, it's that's the best way I get. It goes by fast too, especially when you do it that way.
You played in Toledo. You played in the Glass Bowl. If I'm not mistaken, you played a Nick Saban coached Toledo team up there, didn't you?
Yeah. Old Nicky Poo knew me.
The 1 year, Nick Saban had a game plan for Blaine Bishop as the head coach of the Toledo Rockets.
I don't know about that. I was playing cornerback at that time. So, yeah. Well, he would probably say that I used to just try to choke every wide receiver that played in the MAC.
I wonder who his offensive coordinator was.
And actually, they had 2 guys get drafted in a 3rd or 4th round.
That Toledo team did?
Yeah, I think at wide receiver.
They won the conference that year, which of course they did.
Yeah. I think they had this big-time pass rusher, too. He went first round, Dan Williams or something. I think he went to Toledo as well.
Dan Williams. There was a 1990 Toledo. There was a Tennessee, pretty good Tennessee defensive lineman named Dan Williams that went top 5.
Oh, was it?
To the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, same draft as Eric Berry, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, Eric Berry. No, you talking about a guy that's people, oh, my God.
Eric Berry's career a whole lot better in the NFL than Dan Williams was.
Well, yeah, Eric Berry's career in college was he was an All-American really at both, All-Pro. I mean, man, he was, I used to love watching him play, man. He was special.
That Nick Saban coached 1990 Toledo team, defensive coordinator, Dean Pease.
Oh!
I didn't know that.
I forgot all about that. That's why me and Dean Pease would have great conversations.
Yeah. Greg Meyer was the offensive play coach. That's really who would have been game planning for Blaine Bishop. I never heard that name.
I don't know if they were game planning for me. Who were their 2 wide receivers? Does it say in their that D tackle? Was I right? I might have been wrong with but I'm pretty sure they had 2 receivers get drafted. I was a young player too, by the way. That might have been my first year there.
1990.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see who. This is we're really in the weeds here. July. We're talking 1990 Toledo football.
Right around. Well, maybe we'll do it over the break. But hey, you got to start somewhere. Urban Meyer also started in the MAC too, as well.
Urban Meyer is from Toledo. Yes, he was a head coach at Bowling Green. That's one thing that I've been on record saying I think Ohio is the worst state in the union.
What are you talking about?
Cincinnati's a cool city, but it's basically Kentucky. But the one thing Ohio does is just crank out coaches and players out of the state of Ohio.
Have football
it's crazy, man.
The
Harbaughs, Urban Meyer, Mike Vrabel, like Jim Tressel. We could keep going. Yeah. John Gruden.
They love them some football in Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
They were the king of the crop back in my day. We used to play Cincinnati Moeller at Kings Island every year there. I think it was a Catholic wager bet, and that's why we got to play. So I thought that was really cool, too. Yeah, they had great players, all these All-Americans that went to Notre Dame and Michigan. And that's when, you start realizing, okay, I may not be an All-American, but I'm pretty good.
Yeah, started to kind of
it kind of started showing me, well, they're seniors and I'm a sophomore and I'm out here competing against them. And, hey, are they beating me? Yeah. But, man, I'm out here and I can't wait till I get to be a senior.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to be dominating just like them.
Training camp just around the corner. When you were a player, let's go back to June 27th, 2001. What would Blaine Bishop be doing, you think?
Rookie year, like right now?
No. Like this time of year for you. You're a few years into you're an established player in the NFL. I'm saying let's get in a time machine, go back to June 27th, 2001. What's Blaine Bishop doing this time of year?
I'm going on vacation. Yeah, I'm going on vacation somewhere, and my mind is still on football, so I'll be running on a treadmill, working out in the morning before we get up and go to the beach or whatever we're doing with family and friends, wife and everybody, yeah.
Did you have a go-to spot? Or did you go where other teammates were going, or you wanted to go get away?
I got away with that.
Yeah.
No, I would go with family or friends and just try to, because it would take everything in my power to take my mind off of football. So I couldn't be around other football. I mean, it just wasn't going to work.
So you were one of those, like you really had to force yourself to do it.
I did. I really did. Yeah, so I was just kind of that blue-collar, hard-work guy that was never going to get out of me. So I just said, okay, I'm going to do this small little workout, maybe 40 minutes every morning when I get up, so I won't lose my edge.
That's the same with Zach Lyons. He can't get away. He gets away, but he can't get away.
He's doing.
He's glued to the F&M Bank chat.
Is he still on there?
No. I think he's actually enjoying his time off. But he'll be back in here on Monday with you on Cover 2. Blaine, always fun, man.
Always.
Goes by fast.
Man. No doubt.
Blaine's going to stick around, hang out with Brent Doherty. His 3HL is coming up next. But in the meantime.
And in between time, peace.